DSC Expo 2019, Friday mid-afternoon. Don't know where that day went. I'm joined by Sebastian from Sony and Balázs Bolygó. Now, you're DOP who's been using the Sony Venice for 12 months to talk about, aren't you? You're doing a presentation here. Have you done it actually?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. You had a good audience, I
think so. Yeah, I think so.
Fully packed.
I think it helps that you've got the lights in your eyes. You don't actually see. You can't actually see beyond. So, you're talking to a black mass, which is always helpful.
But it's intriguing to me to find out what the manufacturer, they've brought a camera to market that is a really nice piece of kit. It's up there in the large format cameras. It's getting a huge amount of good press, laden with features, and it's constantly being updated. The firmware 4 is out now, isn't it?
Version 3 was released yesterday. Version 4 is coming in June.
Right, that's it. Yeah. And so does 3 give you the faster frame rates?
No, this is version 4.
Well, 2's already has. Version 2 already has high frame rates, but not as 6K, only 4K. So the camera already does high speed, but not as 6K mode. You have to jump down to 4K, and then it gives you an option to do it.
Right. So there was a lot of requests from the market to say, okay, you need to go faster. So this will come in version 4.
And the extension system, that's on the market now, isn't it? Because
we're looking. I think that we will have the first units out at the rentals last week of February. So it's
imminent.
Literally there.
It all comes together at the moment. So the CNEC, I have introduced this to the audience, and then we gave it to Balázs to say, okay, let's see what will happen.
And what happened?
Well, I've used it a couple of times, and I really like the way it sort of frees you up. It's such a clever piece of kit that you have a full production camera in the palm of your hand.
Exactly.
It's like you don't actually compromise anything by putting the camera into your palm of your hand. No. And nowadays, especially the way films are being made, you're forever trying to move a camera faster, tighter into people, and keep with the action, or put it into new positions that people haven't done that before. Haven't put a camera before, and it allows you to be able to do that. I used it. I had the fortune to use it. We were using doing car scenes, and we had to rattle through. Got about 8 pages worth of car stuff in a day. And we couldn't have done that with a production camera, because we just got the camera, put it on a sandbag. Right, okay, here's our 2 shot. Let's go. And then you kind of go, okay, now let's do a front. And you go, it's so much quicker than having to worry about. Okay, now we've got the camera in position, not quite there. Now we have to put a battery in. Oh, we can't pan it because it's rammed against the windscreen. So it suddenly allows you to be free, and it also really makes suddenly a light camera means that I can hold it and dram it into a corner of a room and operate off a monitor and be able to get a shot that would have suddenly meant you need loads of rigging.
A hole in the wall.
And that's sort of the nice thing about it. And of course, you can use it on gimbals, and you can use it in various stabilization heads, and put it at the end of a stick and throw it around. So it allows you to do all those things that a 5 kilogram production camera with a lens end of it doesn't.
Do you find is that a challenge to find those ways to use it, or is it a fun challenge?
I think it's fun. I think it just gives you another opening to do something different. I mean, I still like doing, depends what kind of scenes you're doing, I still like having a camera when I'm doing a handheld on my shoulder, because it gives you an intimacy with the people that you're filming. But then there's also instances where I think having a camera where I can go from floor to high to be able to move in a different way, it just gives you something different. It gives you something that feels different. I think when DSLRs were invented, suddenly you saw cameras being put in places that cameras weren't put before. I remember first time I used a DSLR, I just got a monopod and just ran with it, you know, skimming the floor, and you weren't able to do that before. And I think now, with the advent of, you know, of where we are with digital, you've now got a full 6K production camera that you can do the same thing that you were able to do with a DSLR 5 or 6 years ago.
And you can try things out very quickly as well. I mean, when I walked past your stand yesterday during build-up, the car was there. It felt like 5 minutes later I walked past and the camera was all
Well, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about doing car stuff specifically. It just the speed at which you can move, and I don't mean physical move, but actually move as a production with a small camera in a situation like a car is amazing. You know, it makes a massive
and
difference.
just, I mean, from a cost effectiveness point of view, you know, if you're shooting commercial or TV show, time is of the essence, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're forever being squeezed by productions on budget or on cost, and I think whatever you do, you have to sort of have that time element in the back of your head. You can come up with brilliant ideas, but actually, can you do it within the time allocated? And you forever have to balance the two. Sometimes those two don't balance, and I think your experience as a cinematographer, that's where it comes in, where you kind of go, right, the idea that we've come up with actually is incompatible with the schedule that we've got, so how do we solve this problem?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What about the actual camera, well, the sensor? You know, what excites you about the colour, the depth, the resolution that you're getting specifically from the Sony?
Well, I was at a position about 3 or 4 years ago where I had to shoot my first 4K deliverable project, where I had to deliver in 4K and had to do an HDR delivery. This was 4 years ago, and this was for Sony Studios, and they wanted 4K, they wanted an HDR deliverable, which suddenly ruled out a whole crop of cameras, and suddenly you had a choice of maybe 2. So I was stood there going, okay, well, I sort of quite like the Alexa, quite like the sensor, but I'm not allowed to use it. So I had to, as with every project, I sort of go into a little melting pot of trying different things and see what works best. But suddenly that melting pot only had 2 cameras in it at the time. And I came up, I sort of tested the F65, and I really liked it. I really liked the images I got back from it. And I was really quite gobsmacked about how it behaved in sort of low light. And I ended up using the F65. And because it was a 4K project, we actually had a Dailies 4K monitoring, which we sort of made, made ourselves, because at that point you couldn't actually get 4K monitors out in the field. So we sort of used various sort of bits of kit to get I think it was like the first OLED 55-inch television that we put in the back of a truck and managed to watch our dailies on. And suddenly I started seeing colours or subtlety of colour that I hadn't seen before with the Alexa. Just nuances, the burgundies, the violets, the purples. Suddenly those colours I've not seen before. And suddenly I got used to working, my eye got open to working in 16-bit. Working in 16-bit, suddenly saw subtlety in colour that I wasn't used to seeing. And when I kind of got used to that, and also the tonality range that 16-bit gives you, I found it really difficult to suddenly go back to 12-bit. So for me, that was like the big eye-opener. And from then on, I've sort of found it really difficult not working 16-bit and not having that range that I got used to working with. And for me, when the Venice came along, I sort of felt, okay, well, it's a new sensor and it's 16-bit, it's got a compressed recording format. Let's try it. And I sort of found it really, I sort of found it really easy to adjust. And the ergonomics of the camera is a really logical camera. It's, I didn't ever have to spend a day learning how to use this camera. I basically looked through the viewfinder, I looked at the menu system, and I kind of went, do you know what? I looked at it, and within 2 days I was on a plane taking it to the Caribbean, because I was confident enough to kind of go, do you know what? This camera will not fail me. And that was having used this was about a year ago, at the beginning of February, where I literally got on a plane, having used it for about 2 days.
Really?
No, not even 2 days. I think I looked at it for 2 hours, and I went, I want to try this camera in anger, and I know I had the confidence to do that because I'd used the F65, and the camera wasn't alien to me. It wasn't alien to what I've been used to.
Yeah. And I've heard people say that. Let's forget there's a Sony guy there for the minute. It's like Sony looked really carefully at everything else that was going on, every camera's way of using menu systems, and came up with a system that is really super logical and straightforward to use.
Yeah, I think a lot of my assistants have commented on the menus. They really like the fact that there's an assistant side as an operator side. I really like, for example, the previous Sony cameras, as an operator, when you're doing stuff, and I had to step away from the camera for the assistant to be able to change something.
Yes.
Now I don't have to do that. I can be looking at something and go, could you make this change? Could you change the speed, or could you put it in 2,500 SR? And I can still be looking at what I'm doing while he can make those changes. So for me, ergonomically, that's made a fundamental difference. Yeah. I can change most of the settings within the side. One thing that I wanted to ask is to be able to do in the viewfinder. Actually, I find it really interesting for me, for my workability. I like changing color temperature to in step increments. Being able to do that in the viewfinder is a really interesting thing. I don't know whether the new firmware does it, but I find that really interesting. That's the only thing I haven't been able to do on my side, that I've had to go to my assistant. Could you give me 3,500? Because I've not been able to do anything else. I've been able to do, not that it's a massive thing, but it's sometimes on the spur of the moment when you come up with something and you want to make a change. It sort of allows you to do that. But I find it really. I've had the camera's given me the confidence to sort of go. There's nothing there that I'm scared about in this camera, which I've not been able to say to other new cameras I've tried recently.
Right. Yeah.
Because I have. Because you not always have the luxury to choose the camera you want to use. And it's taken me other cameras that compete with the Sony Venice. It's taken me sometimes a week or even 2 weeks to get my head round the images I've been getting at the back of it. Whereas the Venice hasn't. The Venice hasn't thrown it yet.
And it's a rugged piece of kit as well, isn't it? It stands up to a lot of rough treatment.
But this is exactly the feedback we got from a lot of DPs nowadays, that they say, Sebastian, I'm not so into Sony right now, but I have tested the Venice, and it's unbelievable. You have listened so carefully, and then I took the files into the post, and I was directly in. So it's a lot of also colorists who test the Exocyan the first time, who say, okay, Exocyan, what's this? They put it on the timeline and said, oh, okay. It's really smooth and easy start, and you say, okay, you're directly in, and then it's like, okay, it's unbelievable what you can get out of the material. So
it's amazing, because I think a lot of people get scared about compressed raw recording, but I think now I think this completely changes the game really. I think for me, I've recently taken the Sony Venice into a relatively low budget production where we didn't have 4K deliverables, we only had HD deliverables, we didn't have any HDR, we didn't have to, we could have shot it with any number of cameras. So when I suddenly mentioned, but I want to shoot with this brand new 6K Sony camera, they kind of went, well, you're crazy, you want to shoot 6K for production that only has HD deliverable. But then I just went, look, okay, here's the maths. Look at what this XOCN file format allows you to do. You want me to shoot on X number of camera, which for example has ProRes recording. Well, this camera, a full resolution, will give you less data footprint than a camera that records at 2K with the ProRes that you want me to do. So why, and in terms of rental price, they're the same level. Why would you want to, one, push your end product that potentially could be sold worldwide and future-proof?
Yes.
Why do you want to throw that out? Why do you want to throw that out the window when you could actually, for the same price and less of a data footprint, shoot something on a camera that future-proofs it and shoots at 6K, and it gives you any number of flexibilities down the line that you won't foresee when you're starting a project.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
So for me, I was hooked. I've not really missed the full uncompressed raw element that comes with the Venice. I mean, for me, I'd choose the 16-bit XOCN over a 12-bit camera any day, recording, uncompressed raw.
Yeah. Also, I mean, slight tangent. Do you think full frame is the way everything is going now?
That's a good question. I think, you know what, I was a bit sceptical about full frame and large formats, and I still am, because I think it does stress elements of a production, especially in television production, television drama. That Super 35 had, I came to television drama when we were shooting 16mm. I learned my craft in 16mm, shooting television drama, and it's a sensor that's that big.
Yeah.
And I learned my craft on it. I experimented with it. Then we sort of went into shooting on 3perf and 2perf Super 35, which was kind of an easy transition. Yeah. And then suddenly all the digital formats adopted Super 35. Great. It was quite an easy transition. But and then low light came about. When you're suddenly shooting a T2 and Super 35, and then suddenly you found that the focus pullers and the technical elements of your department, suddenly really you were reliant on them supporting you.
Yeah.
I think large format takes that to another level, where you have to be conscious of the technical support behind you. Yeah. And I think not every production can support or facilitate large format photography because of what you're doing creatively as a cinematographer. So I think large format is interesting. I think it dictates things on it that you have to be conscious and aware of. But it's an interesting format. I like it, but I wouldn't take it to any other, to every production that I go on to. I think it's also been a necessity for large format. A large format has been a necessity in terms of the format for manufacturers to be able to create cameras that can service the demands of 4K television manufacturers and future-proofing. But I don't think it's a necessity. And I think you have to be conscious of why you're shooting large format. And are you shooting large format because that's the only way you can get a 4K image? Is it worth it?
Yeah.
I think you weigh it up to the productions that you're going on to and the projects you go on to. I don't think there's some projects that I've shot, I don't think I would have been able to shoot a large format because you can't handheld, do 2 takes, run around with an actor giving you a performance and expect the focus puller to be able to focus there at 2.5 or T2.5. It's suddenly. It's not, you can't suddenly. The margin for error in focusing is so small that you can't, or so large that you can't really you can't really do that on every production.
No, it doesn't warrant it, does it?
No.
It's
But
interesting.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting seeing another 12 months where where the Venice is then. Obviously, it will have colour temperature steps on purely.
It's on the-
He
I'll put
didn't
it on
write
the
it
list.
down though. He didn't write it down, did you?
It's all stored
It's in
here.
the- Well, thanks for spending the time to talk to us. It's a pleasure to meet you. Congratulations with the way the Venice is going. It's, the feedback you're getting across the board is incredibly
Just the
positive,
start.
isn't it? Yeah.
Just the first year, just the start.
This is
And
it.
it's an incredible first year. Then.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the thing. So it's really starting right now. So we are, all the features are implementing, and I just not at the CNEC. I think I spoke to TP and I told him a little bit about version 3 and have shown him because of the beta version, and he said, "Hey, 3 months ago we spoke about this one, and it's now implemented." I said, "Yes, because we are listening. So it's on the list. Let's see if it's possible to put it in."
I mean, it's really amazing because one of the first things I said to Richard about 6 months ago when Firmware 2 came out is I needed 2:1 aspect ratio because it's such a popular format. It's becoming a popular format, and it wasn't available back then. And now with version 3, it's there, and you kind of go, "Is that really brilliant?" Because I think I found that Sony have really been listening.
Yeah, and well, you said that yourself, didn't you? That one of the core aspects of developing this camera was to listen to what people want and find out what they need. Yeah, so that's fantastic.
So for us, it's now really important to see with the extension kit what they will do with the extension kit, in which places they will. I'm so looking forward to see the production because even Balázs has used it as a prototype. It's not available. We have also gave it to some other productions as a prototype, and they said, "Oh yeah, we have this single scene. We want to shoot with this." And then after a couple of days, we said, "Okay, how's it going?" We started with one scene, but now we are changing quite often because they see the potential.
Yes, we do. Yeah,
This is quite amazing.
yeah, that's fantastic. Thanks for spending the time to talk to us. Yeah, and hopefully see you again at another show and we can find out more.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.